There's levels to the shit I'm trying to tell you I'm on. Why you always acting like you never do wrong?
Hey guys, welcome back to From Broken to Built podcast. This is episode 10, and today I have a special guest. This is Matt Ealy Sr., also known as Matt the Godfather. And Matt is a 20-year entertainment and media production veteran, and he is also an advocate on mental health and primarily focusing on neurodivergence and ADHD. So everybody welcome Matt. Thanks for being here, Matt.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So I talked about neurodivergency. Can you kind of just dive right into that? We don't have to address the camera, but what does that mean? What does it mean to you? And how do you live with that?
Okay, well, so first, what neurodivergency is it's something used to describe the spectrum that people with ADHD, autism, OCD fall on.
Yeah.
We've existed since the beginning of time, and there's a lot of studies and beliefs that make sense that this goes back to when we were in the hunting and gathering days, and like literally every day when we woke up, we had to worry about just living because big cats could be hunting us and we had to go out and find food.
Yeah.
And so the role of neurodivergent folks at that time was much more obvious and prominent.
Yeah.
Where I think it still is today, but the understanding of it, as we've evolved as societies and communication and the languages that we use, they didn't really know how to pinpoint someone who's autistic, depending on where they are on that spectrum, other than if they were further enough on the autistic spectrum where they're tuned in completely outside the verbal. The average person or neurotypical didn't understand that. And they're just like, oh, well, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
The further towards the ADHD side people are, ADHD people are more outward and can talk and move. So depending on the environment they're in, they could have been seen as like, oh, that's the entertaining person, or that's the big thinker, or this or that. And if it was the wrong environment, they're like, oh, that guy just talks too much, or that guy's annoying, or that guy's a weirdo.
Yeah.
Which is why I think if you look at our industry, if you look at entertainment and media production, I'm going to say over 90% of the people, at least in my experience, that work in entertainment and media production fall somewhere on the neurodivergent spectrum. Well, I can't really think of any of my colleagues or any of the people that I've worked with that aren't somewhere on that spectrum. And it's such a wide spectrum. For me, I was diagnosed with ADD when I was a child.
Yeah.
And then later that became known as inattentive ADHD. And then as they started to learn how autism and ADHD are on this same spectrum, now referred to widely and understood as neurodivergence.
Yeah.
When you have an inattentive type of ADHD, like for me, there were so many autistic traits that I had growing up that just went overlooked because they didn't understand those to be associated with at the time, ADD.
Yeah. And
so I just had to learn, how to mask and how to survive the environments that I was in. And that's something that what happens with a lot of neurodivergent people, especially those on the ADHD side of the spectrum. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. A lot of people who have drug addiction, some of these other mental health issues, whether it's BPD or bipolar or schizophrenia, drug addiction, a lot of these people are people with ADHD, especially somewhere on the ADHD spectrum, that went untreated, unsupported, and found these unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Because the thing about neurodivergent people is we adapt to the environment we're in. And so a lot of us will turn to these not only masking and coping mechanisms, but self-medication, the dopamine chasing. And that's why a lot of us will become, drug addicts, alcoholics, finding something to self-medicate.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get treated. There was not the proper support and didn't find like the actual medication to be medicated properly and live a healthy life. So, you know.
Are you you're currently medicated for your ADD?
Yes. So when I was a child, I was diagnosed at 7.
Yeah.
They tried to put me on Ritalin, and I took it one day or maybe 2 days, and then I just refused to take it because I didn't like the way it made my stomach feel. And I had a high enough IQ and was smart enough then to realize that they can't make me take it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are they going to do to me? Force it down my mouth? So I just refused to take it, and then they gave up on trying to make me take it.
Yeah.
Fast forward middle school. Now I'm getting old enough to start to be socially aware, you know, having girlfriends. And I ended up failing the 7th grade. Not because I didn't understand the work, because I was always an excellent test taker, but because there were certain times in class, if I didn't pay attention to the lesson, and I'd be too embarrassed to tell the teacher, like, hey, I didn't listen to what you said. And so I just wouldn't do homework.
Yeah.
And then when I wouldn't do assignments and I knew I didn't complete those assignments, I was like, I'm not going to go to school. So I would skip school a lot. Like in 7th grade, I probably skipped half.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man.
And so I ended up failing because of that. 7th grade again, kind of the same thing, but I learned that if you're in 7th grade, that in Texas, they had a law that they could not fail you twice. As soon as I learned that, I just stopped going to school again. I was like, I'm going to 8th grade anyway.
Yeah.
However, when I saw my friends go on to high school, having girlfriends that like were older than me and they're in high school, and I was like, man, I got to do something different. Now, I was already self-medicating with weed, smoking weed, but I decided to then go on to medication.
Yeah.
And so I got placed in 8th grade. They put me on Ritalin, and it was like night and day. As soon as I went in Ritalin, it was A's and B's. And I remember algebra, the first quiz I had in my algebra class. I should precede this by saying most of my life up to that point, I thought I was bad at math. And it was just because I would not pay attention in math class and just not do the homework.
Right.
My first quiz in algebra, I got a 90. And then so I get a 90 on this quiz. My teacher, Miss Beckman, calls me to come back in one of the off periods and has me retake the test, the quiz. Now I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh man, I messed up. She's here to help me or whatever. Because I remember as I was doing it, I'm like, this can't be right. The answer seemed too easy to me, right? So I was like, and then I would do them, and then up against the clock, just finally put what I thought it was. She makes me retake the test. I didn't know what I scored on it yet. As I'm retaking the test, I'm thinking, you know, I'm talking out loud, you know, so da-da-da-da, right?
Yeah.
And she's watching, go through. This time I get all 10. I get 100. And she picks it up and she's like, why do they have you marked math deficient? You should be in advanced algebra. Yeah. She made me retake the test because she thought I cheated. And I remember begging her, no, don't make me go. Let me stay in this class. Let me do this. But it came to find out that no, I was a whiz at math. Math was so easy for me that it literally there'd be times I'd be like, this is too easy. This answer seems too easy. What's so hard about this?
Yeah.
It was just that as long as I knew the formula, I could blaze through the problems. That's being medicated gave me turn the volume down so I could look and be like, oh, here's the formula.
Right.
And that's really my first introduction to medication. Fast forward adulthood. My parents died. At that point I'd already been dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
And I wasn't on medication anymore. Moved to New York, to Binghamton, and started my college life and career. Most of my adult life, I was unmedicated.
Yeah. So
in college, I would get A's and B's in my curriculum related classes, but that's because I found it something I was interested in. Like when they told me about communications and media arts, I remember going there, they're showing me, and I'm seeing audio production, video production, all that, and I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah, man.
Those classes I did well in. The other like basic classes like English and even math and like a history class that I had, D's. Like I would barely get them, but because it was like same reason. I'm like, I'm not thinking about that homework. I'm not thinking about that stuff when I'm not there. Audio production, video production, film, theater, all these things that I'm into, like I'm into this.
Yeah, man.
So, and that I'm like killing it. And joining the comm club and do like, when I had things I'm interested in, it was like I was a extreme workaholic, which is one of those challenging things with ADD. Because when not, there's other times if I got burnout, people would be like, oh, well, you're just being lazy. You're just being lazy. You're lazy. Why aren't you
Right.
And it's like, no, I'm not. It's that my brain has so much going on that if I can't focus on something, if it can't lock into something, then it's your drain. You feel like you're this burnout feeling of anxiety of trying to be like, okay, which task do I start? And no, but if I start that, then I got to do this and I got to do that. And it overwhelms you.
Yeah, man.
So years later, I started to realize like, yo, I should go back on medication. It's impacted my life, especially my relationships, because you get in a relationship with somebody and if they don't understand the ADHD, like there's really times they'll be like, oh, you're not doing this thing because you just want me to do it. Or you don't care, or you just expect me to do that thing. And that would become an argument. And sometimes weaponized because it's like, well, what about all these other things I did? And, if you're dealing with someone who doesn't care about the other things you do, they're going to poke and yeah. So I was like, all right, I need to go on medication so that I can have a more manageable life. It took 10 years for me to find a doctor that will properly treat me, which is another one of the biggest things I talk about with the issue is the lack of resources. I finally got put on medication in 2020, and it was life-changing.
Do you, like prior to the medication, did you feel like you were, like, did you know what was going on with you or were you misunderstood? And did you kind of go through some traumatic experiences due to your ADD? Like maybe, people misunderstanding you, a lot of maybe some tension, some fights. Let's talk about like how was life during your unmedicated time and what did you overcome?
Okay, so yeah, and there's a lot to that. So let's go to the early 20s.
Yeah.
At this point, I just developed my own. So I grew up in the hood. I grew up poor. My family, my parents had 8 of us. I was the oldest of 8 kids. My dad battled drug addiction, then mental illness.
Yeah.
Came home, but by the time he was home, he was disabled. My mom got sick and like they couldn't really watch me when I was a teenager. So I was out in the streets. I was in a gang at 12, first gang at 12, dealing with drugs, selling drugs, dealing with hookers, doing all the bad shit, like getting in gunfights and things at 13, 14 on the other side of town where I shouldn't have even been.
Yeah.
I grew up in that environment and learned to kind of like you start to develop these coping mechanisms. And so as I moved out into my adult life, and especially after my parents died, I'm now a parent. I was a teen parent at 16.
Oh, wow.
I had my second daughter at 18. My parents died. I had been kind of the caretaker for all my siblings and my parents for the couple years before they died.
Yeah.
All I knew in my head was like, all right, I dropped out of high school. I'm a dad. I'm like, all I know at this point is like selling weed, pimping, and music. I'm like, so Family House is going to be, I'm like, we're going to start. I idolized Master P and Jay Prince, but especially Master P, because I saw a path. I was like, what Master P did with No Limit, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to build this label up and then I'm going to make movies. I'm like, we blow up doing music and then we're going to make movies.
Yeah, man.
And so we started Family House originally with the Family Circle in Mission Benton, Texas.
Okay.
Because our crew was known as the Family. That was And so my mentality was, we're not a gang, because we'd already done the gang banging thing. And then kind of me and my cousin Duran, this is my best friend. He's not my blood cousin, but we're like cousins. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We were both neurodivergent dudes, but we lived in the hood. And so like we would go from nerding out playing Final Fantasy and video games to then we'd be out in the street chasing girls and hanging with older dudes and whatever that were not, we had no business hanging with 22-year-olds and things like that. As we got older, we basically took over our neighborhood.
Okay.
Like we had kind of strategized in a way where reading the book The Godfather and seeing the movie The Godfather, it's odd to say it, but that's what triggered this. I was like, why are we gangbanging? Why are we wearing colors? Why are we throwing up signs? Why are we marking ourselves? Like we're letting them come at. We need to move differently. So we came up with this concept. I was like, we're not a gang. We're just the family. You don't got to get clicked in, but you got to hang with us and improve yourself. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is we ended up growing this crew, this family of mostly misfits.
Yeah.
And it was people, I'm talking, we're Black, white, Mexican, Asian. We became this unstoppable like crew in Mission Bend.
Yeah.
Like not one gang. There was not one anybody that could fuck with us.
Yeah.
They had to be cool with us or allies of us. And these were things that was a strategy of the neurodivergent brain.
Okay.
But what happens is that starts to go to your head. And so like my mentality became like, when people get close to you or familiar to you and you feel comfortable and you're neurodivergent and then you're vulnerable, you're okay being yourself and you start to overshare and you're goofy and people start to like mistake that. They're like, oh, this motherfucker, he's corny or he's whatever. And so then they take that for weakness and then, you know, start to think they can like get over. And so when that starts to happen, you start to develop your own type of defense mechanism. And for me, it was like, okay, now I got to teach you a lesson. Mm-hmm. And the more that like lessons we would teach people, the more that feeling of like, if someone violated me or did something, we would crush them or anybody that crosses, crushing them, that starts to build this like toxic, almost where it's like, you look forward to it. Mm-hmm. And so I carried that into, you know, when I came to Binghamton, I remember coming up here and seeing it and being like, oh, I can start all over here. Like I can get away from all that. I can start over here. My uncle told me, he's like, you can get your GED for free. You can go to college for free. I was like, what? Because that wasn't a reality in Texas, not at that time.
Yeah.
And so came up here telling myself, okay, I'm getting away from that life completely. I'm at this little small town, like it's going to be easy to restart.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be a square. I've got my GED. I'm going to college. I'm going to learn this profession and still build the label. Quickly started to see like, yo, as you're building a label, especially a hip hop label, at some point you get sucked right back into it. And so for me, I was like, wow, I got to fund this. I had already got my degree, started working in TV here. And when I started working in TV, it was probably one of the biggest triggers to lead me back to crime.
Oh, wow.
Because you're seeing politicians and police officers and all these people that are supposedly and they're all doing, it's like, okay, so you do coke and you get drunk and you drive and this, you're cool. And there's all this, I'm like, oh, so every gangsters make the world go round. And I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Cool. Respect it. Respect the code. I'm going to move how I move. And before I knew it, I was back into like moving drugs and bringing stuff from up down south up here. And as MDG and Matt Houston became this other personality of mine, I had to live like two lives because I would have to go home and just be Matt, be dad. Mm-hmm. Back out in the street, I'm MDG. I'm Matt Houston. I'm the extremely toxic coping mechanisms and defense mechanisms you have to maintain to live these two lives it creates a sense of delusion. Like, I couldn't go home and, be a dad and be a husband and go around my wife's or my ex's, like her family and say, hey, I do this. Some of them knew what I did and didn't really have a problem with it. And to a degree, she knew some of what I did.
Yeah.
Like, she knew where the money was coming from, but like the details. And so anytime I got called out or anybody crossed me or anything, my mind was automatically, fuck what you think.
Yeah.
Regardless if I was wrong or not.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I got to protect what I'm doing. And so eventually in 2006, I caught a case in New York City and I got caught with a quarter key. And ironically, this is why I see how God works, because at that point, I had no business possessing that.
Yeah.
There was no reason for me to possess it because we usually had people that transport it. But it was just ironically like an ADHD moment. Like, my partner hit me up and was like, hey, are we ready to, you got everybody ready? And I was like, and I didn't. I was like, oh no, because I was up drinking all night and didn't realize we even needed to make a pickup. And so I told him, I was like, you know what? Let's just go get it ourselves.
Yeah.
We'll be all right. We got the rental, we got this and that. The girls ain't ready. Like, let's just go get it ourselves. I gotta get some flyers anyway. Just reckless.
Yeah.
Thinking that we'll be all right. Caught the case. When I got arrested, I took a plea for 2 years and knew that there was a shock program I could go to. Signed up for Monterey Shock. And I thought that when I signed up for that program, I had every intention of going back to doing all the same shit. Like, I was just like, oh, I just moved wrong this way. That's why that happened. So when we get back, we got to make sure never to slip like that again.
Yeah.
When I got into the program and I was in there a few weeks, it's when I had that spiritual awakening.
Okay.
Where everything hit me at once. And it was like, I looked at all the facts of my life.
Yeah.
And was like, what are you doing? Like, you're lying to yourself. Like, you really think you're going to keep moving and getting as deep as you're getting and getting involved with the people that you are to the level that you are. And you're just going to be able to get out and your family's going to be okay. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Look at look what you've done. Look at all the damage you've done along the way. And now you're here. Your kids don't know where you are. You don't know what's happening to them. You don't know. You can't just go pick up the phone and call them. You can't just get up and, like, you got these people in charge of you telling you when you can do this, when you can do that. And you did that.
Yeah.
Your decisions put you here. And that shit was heavy. And so, like, going through that program and, it's paramilitary. It was a 12-step program because whether you had a substance abuse problem or not, you still had to do it, which for me, I realized that program is good for everybody.
Okay.
Because even though, like, mine had not manifested in substance abuse, with the exception of using alcohol to self-medicate, which is something I didn't really touch on, but I had no real substance abuse problem, no noticeable one. But the sickness of the mind that manifests for some people as substance abuse, I had that.
Yeah.
And that leads to other self-destructive, other self-sabotaging behavior. And going through that program changed my life. That kind of set me up with these things that made having ADHD manageable, but mainly because I was able to hold myself accountable, to do the self-reflection and things like that. And so by doing that is why I got to the point where I had said, okay, yeah, I need to be on medication again.
Yeah.
Because I can recognize, like, this is a problem. This is hard. This is stressful. This causes strain for my family and the people around me. But if I didn't go through that shock program that broke me down first and rebuilt me and taught me, like, just about accountability, I don't know that maybe I wouldn't have got there. But that is why now I'm so big at advocating because I came to realize, not even while I was incarcerated, but it's like, there's this thing with neurodivergence. I like to say that you don't have to be a doctor. I feel like for some of us, at least I feel this way, and I try to say this humbly, I can usually tell when someone else is neurodivergent. It's almost like a connection, a feeling.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes to what we were talking about right before we started, where when you were mentioning like about yourself, and I was asking like if you had ever been evaluated or anything. And that's because I have this realization or this belief, and what I've seen, that pretty much all of us, that the cinematographers, the creatives, the people that work in media and entertainment, that we're all like neurodivergent. We see the world differently. That's why we're good at the things we do. Unfortunately, what comes along with that is when it's unmanaged, all these mental health issues, all these struggles and these problems that we face, that if we had the proper support, if we were diagnosed early, we understood ourselves and we're able to say, hey, wait a minute, I have ADHD, or I'm, wherever I am on the neurodivergent spectrum. So I need to understand this about myself.
Yeah.
I can hold myself accountable. I can say, what, I'm not going to self-medicate with that, because that is not really medicating me. It's masking, and it's going to trigger some other shit in my brain. Where then we're channeled and we're focused on like some of the most beautiful minds in the world. Like I said, neurodivergent people, like, I don't see it as a disability. It's only a disability when we are forced to have to exist under neurotypical standards. And neurotypical situations where we're forced to have to do things by the standards of a neurotypical person. And we're not, and we shouldn't have to do that, because forever, the roads that we drive on, the design of the houses we build, the fact we have skyscrapers, the fact we have movies and TV and electric lines, and neurodivergent people created this stuff. Because at the time, every idea that everybody inventor ever came up with, people were like, that guy's a weirdo, he's crazy. And people forget that in history because they're too busy like, oh, I'm just used to the fact that I can turn a light on.
Yeah.
I'm too used to the fact that, we build these houses with all these materials, and that there's these roads we drive on, and that I can pick up my phone and call somebody.
Right.
And it's like, all these things exist because some neurodivergent person came up with this idea, and everybody told them they were crazy at the time they came up with it, and then they made it happen. And now people just look at it like, this is just part of what we do.
It seems like, just to relate to what you're saying, it's almost like it's a superpower in a way. And it's a superpower that is divided, though. Like, we have all these amazing capabilities, but we can't focus on one thing at a time at times. And a lot of my art is like unfinished because if I don't do it in that session, I can't go back to it. And when I do sit down, I could hyper focus on it and get through it. Do you think that, this is somewhat of a superpower, or is it like, because I know you said that it's not a negative thing to have neurodivergence. It's a different wiring of the brain. And thankfully we have all these inventions and different materials and things that are brought into the light. How is it shaped, first of all, your kids? Like you said, you mentioned your kids, have some level of neurodivergence. What have they gained from this? And like, what could you teach to the younger generation about neurodivergence?
That's a good question. Well, the first thing I'll say is on point with the superpower and neurodivergence. Not only is neurodivergence not only are neurodivergent people not a problem, we're necessary.
Yeah.
And that's my bigger point, is like half the world's population is neurodivergent, somewhere on that spectrum. It's just the way other people view them, that a lot of that determines the environment they come from.
Yeah.
Like, do you become the Elon Musk or the, you know, Quentin Tarantino or the
Right.
Johnny Depp or the Denzel Washington? You know, like, are you the people looked at as like, wow, they're geniuses or they're eccentric or
Right.
or do you become like the deadbeat dad or the unpresent, the dad or the drug addict brother or the whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so we do have the superpowers cultivated, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that starts with us first, learning ourselves and holding ourselves accountable and getting ourselves on the straight path. When it comes to my kids, so I thank God that my dad raised me in a way to be very like, have very honest conversations about things. And so I started having these conversations early on. Especially with my oldest daughter.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest daughter, they talked more about her having ADHD, and it was more prevalent because her mom was really on top of her with the schoolwork.
Yeah.
So when she was a teenager, like, and I could see it in her too, and I knew it even when she was little because, and so I would talk with her, you know, I would talk with her about it. Like, you know, understand we think differently, you know, things like that. And then I would talk with her mom about it. It was one of the few conversations her mother and I could have sometimes very civilly. And I saw between her middle school and high school how she just got, you know, and I credit a lot to her mother for that. Because I think she did, like, I remember the conversation we had and I think she really took what I was saying and was like, okay, I'm going to own that our daughter has ADHD, but that she can, like, that doesn't mean that she can't excel as long as she has the right structure. And Maddie's doing so great now, young, independent woman. I could see it in my daughter, Jada. My oldest son, Matt, I think the problem, here's where I felt guilty. I did not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't acknowledge the fact this kid was stoned all the time.
Okay.
And so there was part of me that would, you know, there's a saying like they say you're kind of tougher on the kid that's the most like you. It reminds you the most of yourself. And I had to look at the fact that with Matt Jr., because he was so much like me, that fear of like, oh, you're going to do this. And so I had to be like, no. You can't do that. You can't do that. I don't want you to do this. I want you to do that. Like this fear, like that you're going to do. I don't want you to do the mistakes I make. I see you doing things that looks like what I was going to do. And so it took a while of learning lessons. And because he's the oldest, I was 16. He was born to teen parents. He had to go through things more than the other kids because like him and Maddie I would say that too, because we're still growing up too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep. Like we're learning all these things with them that by the time we get to the younger kids, it's like, okay, we learned that one. So we're not going to do that same thing. We're going to do this different. But my son Vito, never addressed his neurodivergence.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have ADHD type.
Okay.
Or like his is more somewhere in the autistic spectrum, but he's such a good kid. It's weird. I don't even know how to quantify what his is because he's super empathetic. So there's that. Does not want conflict with anybody. Always got straight A's. Always well behaved. Always the like trying to resolve things.
Yeah.
But he kind of became the hero child.
Okay.
And I take ownership. It's something I have to live with. I feel like I was at fault because it was always like my pride and joy, Vito, and everybody loved Vito, and it put this pressure on him that he kind of thought that he could never fail anything, or he couldn't do anything wrong, or he was going to disappoint everybody.
Yeah.
And thankfully, like we're talking about it more now and trying to find it, but you know, when you're a dad, you can only look and be like, man, I was so focused on this and trying to figure this one out and trying to figure that one out that I completely overlooked this with you.
Absolutely.
I do think the good thing is that me and all my kids with each other, like we talk to each other, and these are things that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a good thing. And, you know, it's like we were talking about before, as dads, we're always going to spend so much time like beating ourselves up, like, man, if only I did this thing, or only I did that thing.
Yep.
But the communicating and talking about it, I think doing stuff like this, where we talk about these things and we bring awareness to these things, I think that again, this is us as neurodivergent people using the gifts that God gave us to do a service, which is informing people.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the pressures of being a father and being a man in this day and age. There's a lot of unspoken things that happen within men. First of all, compartmentalizing things, having to like carry the weight of so many pressures in life, and having to show up as this grounded man in all your relationships. Like, speak to some of that and how you handle those things.
Well, you handle it the best way you learn how, I say. A lot of that comes from handling it the wrong way, learning, then, and getting better. But you're right about, there's one reality that I've come to, and I consider myself a pretty like open-minded, rounded, open to different ideologies and viewpoints.
Yeah.
Support equality and women's rights and whatnot. But there is a reality when it comes to being a man. And I don't care if it's the farthest left liberal woke person or whatever, or traditional right-wing conservative. There is a standard for men that it's exclusive to men. And that is that if you aren't providing, your worth is based on what you provide, period. And people can say, oh, this and that, but no. Be a man that loses his job. Be a man that gets laid off. Be a man that has struggle. And now all of a sudden, those things that your family was accustomed to, they aren't there. And watch how quick things switch up on you.
Right. Yep.
And that's just the reality. And so the way I've learned to handle it is like, faith. I'm not an extremely religious person, but I am spiritual. I do have my faith. My faith is Islam. That's where I was led to.
Yeah.
And when I started turning inward, kind of like what we were talking about before, there's something about like praying 5 times a day.
Yeah.
It reconnects me with my creator and kind of realigns and helps me to kind of not put so much focus on what I don't have control over.
Yeah.
What do I have control over? What is my path? What am I supposed to do? And I kind of feel like that is all we can do. And then just the communication with our kids. And you're in a situation like mine where I have 6 children with 5 different women because I started so early, and I don't regret any of my children. Not that I advocate for doing, having kids before you're ready, but I was young and immature. And so like not knowing better and having these kids at the wrong time in life, quote unquote. But I also realized that if I didn't have having my son at 16 also saved my life then, the first time, because it took me out of some of the things I was doing.
Yeah.
And with each one of the women that I've had children with, I've learned something. And so my approach to dealing with them is that regardless of what they do, regardless of where they might be wrong, one thing is a fact. They are a person I chose to lay down with. They are a person I chose to procreate with. And we brought this child into this world together. And so regardless of what happens between me and them, our goal should be to never make our kids feel in the middle of that. So I will never bring my kids into the middle of what's going on with me and their mom.
Yeah.
I will never make my kids feel like your mom, is any less than a person or whatever. And whatever they do as a man, I got to just kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy, especially when you're neurodivergent. And when I was younger, there's times I have hit my max and snapped and lost it. And that was kind of a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lesson that I'm able to talk about with my son and daughter now, about a time a few years ago when I was justifiable in the way I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And their mother had pushed my buttons to the point where I finally lost it, and I snapped and I went off on her.
Yeah.
And then she ended up taking the things I said to her, showing it to our son, and my son didn't talk to me for like a year.
Oh, man.
And a lot of bad things happened because of that.
Yeah.
Now, full circle, it came around, me and her, we got on good terms. She kind of like owned stuff. And then once me and her started talking again, because I went for a year, I was like, I don't want to talk. The kids are grown now. We have nothing to say to each other. I could talk to them. Our son was going through it bad. And she came to me. She's like, I think it would be good for him to see us together.
Mm-hmm.
Talking with him. And I had to like pray about him. Like, she's right.
Yeah.
And as a man, I got to hear her. Because right now she's talking to me as the other parent.
Mm-hmm.
As a man, I got to hear that. And it was like maybe a few weeks ago, we all were sitting down, me, her, and my daughter, and him, and we were having this really vulnerable, open conversation about everything. And you could just see like how it resonated with the kids. And I remember having this moment where I prayed later and I thanked God, because I was like, all the shit that we went through. And one of the things that was said in that conversation, I said to Vito, I was like, listen, because he got to a point, he's like, oh, I know how my mom can push. And I was like, doesn't matter. You know why? As a man, I never should have reacted that way. It doesn't matter what your mom said to me. It doesn't matter what she does is between her. I, as a man, the minute I reacted that way, look what the effects were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I didn't react that way, she wouldn't have been able to show you that message. If I didn't react that way, there wouldn't have been something for you to not talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a man, that's on me.
Mm.
If I didn't react that way. And so those types of conversations are able to happen. And so it's almost like you get those opportunities to turn these mistakes and painful things into lessons that can help grow and help your kids grow and help your kids learn. And all I can say is just by me being honest, and I credit my dad because he was that way. Where I messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And a man takes accountability for what we do wrong.
Yep.
If we do something wrong, we got to own it first and foremost. Before we can set boundaries or whatever with anybody else, we got to own what we do wrong.
Mm-hmm. I like that, man. I like that a lot. These are things that I'm kind of going through right now, learning to own my mistakes, taking accountability without getting defensive or blame shifting, and just really owning my part as a man. And I really do like what you just said, man. Like, a lot of people need to hear that. And just kind of shifting gears a little bit. Let's talk about what you're healing from those toxic relationships, and speak to an earlier version of yourself that went through those times. And what have you learned from being in toxic relationships?
So there's a lot, because I had a pattern of codependent relationships, I think. And especially when it comes to like the serious long-term ones, the women I had kids with, I think that the last 3 serious relationships were neurodivergent people too. My ex-wife, she actually did get diagnosed with ADHD, but it was like just like 3 or 4 years ago. And there's a lot that I realized now that I'm like, oh, a lot of the things, the toxic things that she did, I'm like, that's because she never learned how to like, she never had treatment for the ADHD. And so because we were both like entertainers and there a scene or whatever, there was like things that I would love about her. But I also see like, I'm like, these are your burdens too. Like your need to mask and perform for everybody and like this fake image and never being able to like own your own stuff. Like you always either got to be the victim, the hero, or, the survivor, whatever. It's like, when are you ever wrong?
Right.
And some people, that defense mechanism, they can't, it's like in their head, if they admit if they did something wrong, then it's the end of the world. Then they become like suicidal and depressed. And it's like, no, it's okay to be human. Just own what you did wrong and let's do better.
Absolutely.
Like, and so when you are a neurodivergent person, especially, being a target of reactive abuse is like, we're one of the easiest targets for reactive abuse. And so like I said, my ex-wife and then the last relationship I was in, I experienced so much of that, but in different ways. I was in a 7-year relationship, and very similarly, you get to a point where, like, I looked at this person, I'm like, oh, she's got a master's degree, she's professional, there was periods where I would think like, oh, maybe I need to be understanding. I had to learn and grow. She just needs to learn and grow for this. Here's the thing is that, and I touched on this in some of my content, but like, it's very common for people with ADHD to forgive and go through cycles. Now, there's a double-edged sword when you're someone like me that at one point lived such a toxic lifestyle and then changed and healed. So in my mind, I'm like, things I did and I grew from and changed from, if I can change, anybody can. So there's that part where you want to be forgiving. I also credit some of it to my own ego as well, because there's part of me that is like, you don't want to accept like, oh, this woman's like, she would do me dirty. She's going to try to play me. Nah, she's going to see the value in me. And then the other part is that we want to, people that, especially that fall on the spectrum where I fall, a lot of the inattentive ADHD people, we need to understand how things work, why they're that way, like why, always questioning. Like, it's very hard for us to accept something at face value. It's like, we want to understand why is it, and for me, people are no different.
Yeah.
I think it's probably why journalism was such a, like, no matter what else I do, I've always kept a foot in journalism.
Yeah.
And so when somebody does something and then they apologize, my thing is like, that's where we get taken advantage of. Like, if someone does something wrong and they don't take ownership, then my eyes fuck off. Like,
yeah,
bye, thanks.
Yep.
The best thing that, like, someone that's really toxic and they do me dirty, the best thing they can do is stay away.
Right. Yep.
But it's when people come and they cop a plea or they say they're sorry and they say the right things. It's like, oh, okay. I want to see you change. I want to believe you change. I understand why you're like this, because you haven't learned to love yet. You just haven't never been loved right. And unfortunately, it's like, there's only so much of that you can go through where you realize, like, this person doesn't really truly respect me or value me or love me the way I love them. Like, I tolerate all your flaws. I own mine and try to compensate, but like, I don't get that same grace. And when you start to feel like someone starts to make you feel like they're doing you a favor by being with you. And it gets to the point where, for me, I was getting up at 5:30 a.m., going to work. Would get out of the first job, go do the show, get out of the show. I'd have a few hours in between. I'm like, okay, let me come back. I'm either dealing with something for, if I have like a client project or something for the business, I'm working on that. Or if I'm not, I'm like, okay, let me help in the house. Let me do the dishes real quick, whatever, let me help with the kids or whatever it is. And then I'm leaving to go to the next job and I'm working a full shift, getting out at 10:30, 11, not getting home till almost midnight. Can't fall asleep right away because ADHD brain.
Oh, yeah.
And then got to get back up at 5:30 a.m. and do it again. And it's like when you're doing that and you walk through the door, and the minute you walk through the door and you're like, hey, babe, how was your day? And it's you need to do this and you need to do that. And you need to, it's like, again, when you get to the place of awareness. So my approach is always like, honey, I understand you had a long day. So did I. Could you please just tone check for a minute? And then, this is where, like I said, if two neurodivergent people in a relationship that are self-aware and communicate and healthy can be a power couple. If you have two neurodivergent people, one is aware and held and the other is not, then it's not going to work because the other person then starts pushing your buttons.
Right.
Well, if you don't like it, you can leave. If you don't like it, you can leave. If you don't like it, you can leave. And at some point, like, it gets to the point, like, I'm the type of person, there's only so many times you can say this to me or talk to me like that or treat me a certain way where I'm going to be like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
And the next time you come trying to do the same thing you did before, cop and please, or trying to like send peace things or act like everything's all good, it's just not going to work anymore because it's happened too many times to where like, we've done it. Like I've already forgiven you. I've already tried to give you the work. And now I am unhappy. I don't feel safe. I don't feel valued. I don't feel like you pretty much show me that you just see my forgiveness as a weakness. Yeah. You see my willingness to forgive you and act like everything is all good as a weakness. And I'm going to walk away because I'd rather be alone, mourn this relationship, deal with whatever struggles I got to deal with starting over and going and being a single dad, to at least know when I walk in my house, I'm at peace. Yeah, I might have to sit with like the sadness and the depression and things like that. But I think the difference is like where I'm at in life now. Like this last time I went through it, when I'm going through a depression or a cycle, I know what I'm going through. So I'm like, I know I'm going to be okay.
Right.
I know I'm going to get through this. It's like having the flu. Like I've been through this before. It sucks while I'm going through it, but I know I'm going to get through it. I got to have faith. I got to lean in, pray, focus on trying to be the best me I can be. So that way I can get through this. What do I have control over? I don't have control over what my exes do. I don't have control over what she does. I don't have control over what anybody else does. I only have control over me and how I choose to handle things and like the things that I actually have control over.
We always talk about making a woman feel safe, like protecting her emotions, staying grounded. Is there a discussion that needs to be had about a man feeling safe?
Absolutely. I have this conversation often. It's also like you see sometimes I make contents about relationships issues, and more than one thing can be true at once. The bottom line is though, the healthiest relationships I've seen, my Uncle Carl, my Aunt Nevy, my personal heroes, Steve and Dana Tejeda, who were a power couple that I grew to know and were mentors in business at one point that I loved, watched how their dynamic was. And I've had a few other healthy couples examples. The biggest factor in those healthy couples that go the distance, that love each other till the end, is respect, the mutual respect. They're each other's safe place. Like, there has to be, like, if you are in a relationship, if you're going to be in a committed relationship, and the irony is that this is the same science that applies to any relationship, whether it's a business relationship or a friendship or whatever. But especially when you're talking about domestic relationships, the person you're sharing a life with, the person you're building with, if you do not have respect for each other, the mutual respect, the ability to say, hey, what we have, it's us and then it's everything else. It has to start here. Mm-hmm. We are the foundation of our existence. Mm-hmm. Everything else is that, but it starts with us. And if I can't be vulnerable with you, if I can't be honest with you, just as much as I can protect you, then if I can't be vulnerable and I can't be honest with you, I can't really protect you. Mm-hmm. Because we're not that safe space for each other. If we're each other's safe space, then we're able to help each other recharge. We're able to help each other in those moments and we recharge, and then we're stronger together when we come out of it. Mm-hmm. Versus where the minute any household starts to feel like people are at competition with each other, and it's oh, you did this, well, you did that, or well, you did that, and like a tit for tat instead of like hearing each other out, valuing each other's input, valuing each other's feelings, respecting that each person is going to have their own perspective. And this is where the type of person each person is. Now, if either person's a toxic person who's unhealed and manipulative, mm-hmm. It won't work. Mm-hmm. Like if either person is like, for me, like I said, there's 3 non-negotiables for me to ever get in a committed relationship again. That is complete transparency, mm-hmm. mutual respect, and mutual appreciation. Mm-hmm. Complete transparency is simple. It's like, be honest, open, don't hide shit from each other. Y'all are each other's safe space. The respect part is the part where a lot of people get confused. And I heard my Aunt Nevie, we're at a family reunion, and my cousin Samad, shout out Samad Davis, was asking everybody at the table, all the old folks, what's the key to a happy relationship? What's the key to a happy relationship? Now, mind you, the only 2 couples there were my Uncle Jerry and my Aunt Irene, mm-hmm. my Uncle Carl, my Aunt Nevie, and then my uncle's friend was there with his partner, but they had just started dating, and these people are seniors. Now, my Uncle Carl and Aunt Nevie were the only couple that had been together from day one till my uncle passed away. Yeah. And what my Aunt Nevie said, I never heard something. And she said, more than love is respect. Mm. And she was like, and what people don't understand about respect is a lot of people think respect is somebody giving you what you want. She goes, that's not respect. Respect is you respect the person you're with for who they are. Mm-hmm. You will compromise when you can for them, but at the same time, you respect them to be who they are. And if they have that same respect for you, then things will work out. Mm-hmm. And you don't try to change somebody. You don't try to force somebody to do the things you want them to do. As long as they don't do that to you. As a couple, I will watch my uncle. He's like, sometimes he's like, if, your wife wants to go watch a show that you don't care about, mm-hmm. Do it for her. You know what I mean? My uncle was like, I want to watch the game with my friends. Yeah, Aunt Evie's fine with that. Mm-hmm. She ain't into football, but she's not going to stop me if I want to help her. It's about mutual respect. Not someone be like, I don't know why you care about football. Stop watching football. Yeah. I don't know why you care about this stupid art show. I don't want to go see, it's about that mutual, you're the person I love and respect. So because this makes you happy, I'm happy that it makes you happy. It may not be the thing I'm into, but yeah, I'll cater to it here. Yeah. And you get that same thing. What happens is you get people that get in relationships and they're kind of like want to control the other person. Mm-hmm. Like, let me control you. Let me make you do things to what I want you to do. Mm-hmm. Instead of being more like on that mutual level of like, what are we trying to do for our future? And as long as we want the same future and we're moving the same way, we should respect each other to have their individual selves As long as it's not something that's hurting a relationship. Now, obviously, it's like, hey, I want to go out and do drugs or gamble all my money away or something like that. That's a problem. That's different. But, you know, things that don't fall under that category.
Yeah, man. Earlier, before this started, we were kind of touching on in order to have a successful relationship, you kind of have to do the inner work yourself to address certain things. And I was telling you that, you know, I was once controlling, I was once manipulative. And ever since I gave myself to God and also sat with myself and took accountability, I show up more grounded and secure now. What do people got to do to get to that level of understanding with self?
I feel like the 12 steps, I feel like, you know, everybody, you know, I mentioned before, everybody associates the 12 steps with alcoholism or drug abuse, but they're deeper than that. The reason the 12 steps for addicts and abusers that are seriously trying to change, the reason it works is not because of like, it just makes them stop using it. It's about fixing that sickness of the mind that a lot of us have. And I'm telling you, those steps, if you follow them, like when you're a person that's gone through traumas and lived toxic lifestyle and you really want to change, follow those steps and that'll take you there. They touch on everything. And there's plenty of other stuff, you know, you can incorporate, but I don't think I can stress enough or advocate enough for how powerful the 12 steps are.
Now, this is pertaining to like substance use or alcohol addiction.
It's the 12 steps that they use in AA and NA.
Yeah.
But if you take those things and you remove the word alcohol or drugs and you replace it with sickness, my sickness of the mind, my this, you know, it applies universally.
Okay.
And it really can help you have the awakening, understand, like doing the personal inventory. Doing the inventory, that step, that's something that I do regularly. Like I'll do a moral inventory, like look at a situation and be like, you know, what did I do? And where was I wrong? And what could I have done better? And why should I have done it better? And what was the result of this? And what am I going to do better? You know, what am I going to do to fix it? What am I going to do to do better?
It almost seems like you have to reach a certain level of self-awareness. And a lot of people may never reach self-awareness. That takes a lot of effort and an inward journey to arrive there. You seem like you're self-aware. What are some things you notice about becoming self-aware? Because I know for me, if I notice somebody's not self-aware, let's say they're pushing a grocery cart down the middle of an aisle and they just block everybody. It stands out to me. And even behavior wise, when somebody's not self-aware, it stands out to me and it's a big turnoff. It's almost like having a new set of eyes that you see a different version of everybody. What's something that you realize by obtaining self-awareness that you can't go back on?
That I can't go back on. Well, I think that lying to myself. So, and it's funny because that actually is layered, because the first lie we can never tell ourselves is that whoever we were, whatever toxic things we did, whatever bad character flaws or things, that they're gone. Because they're always there. There's certain traits, there's certain character flaws, there's certain things about us that are, we choose not to feed that bad wolf. It's a sleeping wolf is the best way I've heard it described, that we have to make a conscious decision not to feed that. Now, a lot of times that's people, places, things that you got to change that aren't going to trigger that. But the first part is that, like, hey, I got to be aware of this is what I'm capable of. I'm capable. These are things I've done. It's why a lot of times retelling the stories of things you like bad things you've done can be helpful. I've heard people when they talk about they've observed like an NA meeting or an AA meeting, and they're like, it almost sounds like they're like glamorizing what they did. And I'm like, no, it seems like that to you. That's what healing looks like. When that person can tell that story about all the fucked up shit they did, and they're like chuckling at it, or let me tell you why. Because the reason they're retelling is they probably had a bad day. And when you have a bad day and you start to have some bad thoughts, you start to beat yourself up. So by retelling this story of what you did before, it does two things. The first thing is it reminds you of what you're capable of being. But the second thing is it reminds you like, this is what I used to do. That's who I was before.
Yeah.
And I'm not that today. And every day I work, I'm not going to be that. So this little thing I'm beating myself up about, this little thing that I'm, almost had me like slip or maybe go have a drink or maybe go do something, some little toxic. I'm not going to do it just because of this, because you know what? That's who I used to be. And if I cannot be that and I can work every day to not be that, then I cannot do this thing. I can move away from it.
I like that, man. Yeah, it's like, I feel like everything is an awareness. And a lot of times within myself, I will keep fucking up until something becomes an awareness. Once it becomes an awareness or somebody teaches me what my blind spots are, I could address that problem. Otherwise, it's just me continuing to fuck up. And I live for those moments where people teach me about myself so that I could address a behavior, a personality trait, anything that, is making people distance themselves from me and me not knowing about it. I love becoming aware of new things, man. But just touching on that. So a lot of times in the mental health journey, healing, we have to celebrate our victories, things that we're overcoming. Is there any victories that you have overcome or have reached recently, personal achievements that have helped you heal quicker?
Well, I would say definitely refining my way back to my faith. I see that as a victory because for the longest, like I had my faith, but practicing it. Like I wasn't praying 5 times a day. I wasn't going to Juma. There was a lot of things that I was not doing that were me robbing myself. You know what I mean? And so starting to do those things again has been a huge win for me, I think. Like that is a victory. It feels good. And then I would also say like just the relationship with my daughter, my 20-year-old, I would say she moved back in with me a few months ago.
Yeah.
And like getting to watch her as a young woman and have conversations and seeing who she's becoming despite everything that she's lived through is just a huge blessing. It's like, I'm watching her in real time, like grow and become who I always knew she could be versus what other people thought she would be. And that I feel that that's a reward and a blessing.
Yeah, man, it's definitely a great thing to see your kids come into your own. What's something that today, the version of Matt Sr. today would say to Matt Houston to kind of maybe not stop him from being that guy, but to raise an awareness within Matt Houston?
Wow. It's heavy because there's so much, I would say.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I would say to him is remember everything your dad told you. He didn't lie to you. And look at the decisions you're making now and think, are any of these in alignment with what your dad told you? The things that your dad told you and warned you about, are the decisions you're making right now, are the things you're doing in alignment with that?
Okay.
That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, man. That's me personally. I would want just a couple of years ago, I would want him to know that you can heal. You can forgive your past. You know, you're not the same character that these people painted you as. You're not a monster. And healing is non-linear. You know, it's an everyday effort. And just don't stop showing up for yourself, because every little bit counts in the grand scheme of things. And that broken little boy is seen by this guy today, this new version of me, and he is forgiven for everything he's been through. And you know, he's not going to be broken for long. You know, God's got his back, loved ones got his back, and I got his back now, man.
Mm.
And yeah, I just think that a lot of people are carrying the past on their shoulders, and it's just really slowing us down. And the sooner we could just dump that load and just focus on what's before us, you know, like right ahead of us,
Mm-hmm.
we could begin to do that healing.
Yeah.
And forgive ourselves, man.
It's funny that you, I had a conversation. I have a friend who recently just started going to meetings, just started sobriety, addressing some of their own mental health stuff. And, you know, they talked to me a lot about like this, like admitting to things and the realization of like who they were and the activities that they were doing and how bad they were. And you know, they're telling me like, it's just so hard. And like, it's like, I want to beat myself up. And like, you know, my instinct before was to go get drunk or mask or make up a false story or pass the buck. And now it's like having to see it's just a lot. And I had said to them, listen, here's the good news. Like when we come to that moment of clarity and we start doing that moral inventory and we start holding ourselves accountable, the first part is painful.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, like once you get through that first part, the painful part of really looking in the mirror and owning it and saying, yeah, these are the things that I did wrong. These were the things that were wrong, but this isn't who I am and I'm choosing not to be. The healing begins. And now when you look back, you're not beating yourself up. You're not running. You're not running from the past. You're not running from the things that, you know, you're the mistakes you made or the slip ups. You're looking at it and saying, wow, these are the things that I did. And man, I'm so glad I'm not that anymore. And I'm going to work every day to even be better and grow and continue to heal. And that is the key. That's the difference between like healing and not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people they'll take some of the initial stuff. They're like, hey, I want to heal. And so they stop doing some things, but they aren't fully honest with them. They still have a hard time confronting things, mistakes that they made or injustices that they did, or, you know, bad things that they did. And my advice to those people is always like, listen, if you really want to heal, you have to go through that.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't really going through that, you know, you're not really healing. A good friend of mine was speaking about like getting sober. And I think, like I said, whether it's substance abuse or other problematic things, it's the same sickness of the mind. And he said one of the biggest reasons a lot of addicts relapse is because when they first go to get sober, they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're trying not to lose something.
Yeah.
Usually like their partner's going to leave them and they don't want their partner to leave or whatever. So they're like, oh, I'm going to go get sober because they're trying to hold. But they haven't had the awakening for themselves where they're like, no, I need to change my life for me because this is not healthy. I can't be this person for me, not because I'm trying to hold on to something. And so that characteristic kind of carries over to universally to people who aren't really fully healing. They're like, oh, I just need to change these aspects because this thing is causing a problem, but they're not looking at the full self and like the things that we need to do. And you'll know that when you see people running. Like if you're running from confronting the things you do, if you're afraid to confront the things you do, there's still things that there's a saying in treatment, you are as sick as the secrets that you keep. Now that doesn't mean that you got to go out and tell the world, like, there's some things that can remain private,
Yeah.
but the secrets you keep from yourself and then from the people that you should be sharing it with. Like if there's things you're lying about or things that you did, or like, you slept with your friend's partner and you haven't admitted it, and you're still seeing this friend on a regular basis, and you're like, oh, and you don't, every day that goes by that you don't tell them the truth, and you're still, it's one thing if they're not your friend anymore, you don't see them, you don't need to go out of your way, there's the thing, as long as it will cause harm to others when you're making amends. Like, you don't need to go out of your way to go find this person and disrupt their life.
Right.
Like,
right.
You can admit it to yourself and to God and to another person and take accountability, and that's that. But like, you're still friends with this person. You're hanging out with this person on a regular day. Every day that you're doing that, you're still committing the act. And you have to be honest with this person and at the risk that they may cut you off. They may say, yeah, like, you stole from me, you slept with my partner, you lied to me about something, you went and told my business, I told you something that I trusted you with, and you went and shared it with somebody else. When you admit that to them, they might say, hey, I can't fuck with you.
Yeah.
Part of accountability is you own that. You say, you know what? If you choose to not forgive me, I have to accept that. A lot of the times, most cases, the strength of the relationship, the person will forgive you for your honesty. It may take time or whatever, but these are the types of things that I'm saying what real healing looks like. And when you really, you're truly healing, you're not afraid of those things.
Right.
You're more like, no, I got it. Nope. I'm not falling back into that trap.
Yep.
And things will happen that'll trigger you, and you'll start to feel yourself, and you'll start to feel yourself up, and you'll be, oh wait, nope, not going back to that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get me, not today, Satan. It ain't happening.
Absolutely, man.
And that's
Yeah, man. I like that. So yeah, man, I think that we're at a good place right now, man. I have a better understanding of you. I feel like you are at a good point in your healing journey. I don't know if we're ever healed because the wound is still there. It's just we have a better way of dealing with things. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, man. I have a lot of perspective. I live for perspective. One of the things that happened when I was masking my emotions with marijuana was I wasn't truly able to put myself in other people's shoes. And now I think about things, my actions, how I treat others, like, I don't want to mistreat people anymore. I am triggered still. That guy is still in there. Like you said, he shows up differently now. And he may never be healed. That's a broken guy, but what you can do is you could patch the foundation with fresh cement, and new perspective. Learn new ways to control your behavior. Become more aware. And apologize to people. Take accountability for those ruined relationships. And just try to be better, man. And I think that, you've overcome a lot of things in your life, man. And I think we both have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, that means a lot.
Yeah, man. Like I see you, man. And, it's really nice hearing your wisdom today, man. And I'm learning a lot from you. You're older than I am. So I always look up to people, who are a little bit older than me. You're kind of like a mentor. You've been in my inbox, feeding me wisdom, sharing your media with me. And this is a never ending growth journey, man. And I think that, we're way further along than we were even last year, man. So
yeah,
I appreciate you coming on here, man.
I appreciate you having me, and the feeling is mutual. Like I've always admired your talents, but like especially, I feel like you've said so many things in the last few months that it was like I'm like, wow, it's like talking to my heart right now. And again, that's why I believe like God kind of draws you to people you're supposed to be connected to.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you've said and that you've done, I'm like, man, that's spot on.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate you. I really appreciate you, and everything you're doing is inspiring as well.
Thanks, man.
And I'm happy. I'm honored for you to have had me be a part of the show.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you being here. And I just, guys, you saw what we talked about. It's just real conversations, real people, and we're just taking broken people and we're healing them. And this is just an outlet for you guys to come and let your shit off, man. Like if you got something to talk about, I'll listen to you, man. And like we could work through things, and sometimes just being heard and seen are all we need to get to that next step in our healing journey. So, I just thank you, Matt, for coming on here, man.
Yeah.
And
appreciate it.
Let's take ourselves from broken to healed in our journey. And this is episode 10, Matt the Godfather Ealy. And tune in for the next one.
There's levels to the shit I'm trying to tell you I'm on. Why you always acting like you never do wrong?